Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Library's Open Podcast. My name is Elise, and joining me today we have Justin Denton, who is the Director of IT Services at Illinois Valley Community College. Welcome, Justin.
Hello. Thank you, Elise. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Is this your first podcast
It is. It
experience?
is. Bounced between the game. So it's me getting back into the swing of things. I've taken a few year hiatus for some personal issues, and I've taken care of all that. So I'm getting back into the swing of things.
Awesome. Well, welcome. We're so happy you're here. And audience, if you don't know, Justin recently hosted a webinar for us in partnership with Novara Library Services. This was our digital defense series that we're doing right now. And Justin did a session on small budget, big defense, and it was all about practical ways libraries could implement better cybersecurity practices for very low cost. And so I thought it was so enlightening that I wanted to invite Justin to come on today to talk about all these things. But first, before we get started, I would love to hear, Justin, how you got into IT work. What is your backstory? How did you end up where you are today?
So mine is I've been into computers since I was a little kid, and I'm older, obviously. So I lucked out going to a Christian school back in the early 80s, and I was probably that misunderstood troublemaker. And I know by today's standards, 100%. I was the one that daydreamed in class. I was the one that they didn't challenge as much. So I spent most of the time sitting by the window, dropping tissues out the window or flying paper airplanes in class. And my mom always told me she always picked me up from the principal's office at the end of the day, every single day. The one thing that I always stuck with me was that when I was a kid, um, they had a Commodore 64 and an Apple IIe in the basement. And once the school got those computers, everything was over. Like that was what clicked for me. So I did anything and everything to excel in school at that point, just to be able to go down in the basement and use the computers, which was awesome because that set the standard moving forward in my life. So at all points in my life through the educational system, I always knew more than my teachers about computers, just because I lucked out at an early age. My parents bought computers for me when I was maybe like 7, 8 years old. I used to work on computers in my dad's auto repair. At the end of the day, he would lift one of his car lifts up and we would set computer parts out. And that's how I learned how to build computers in the middle of my dad's auto repair. Um, Moving forward, I got into high school again. No one could challenge me on computers. I knew a lot of, so I started to get in a little bit of trouble, just like most high schoolers do. Um, I ended up hacking the computer system at the school. I was a bit of a computer hacker in the 90s and got suspended from school for a couple weeks. And and I also got banned from using any computers in the high school for my junior and senior year. But the one thing that always stuck with me is our librarian, Mr. Orm, was the only person that saw that I would say different compared to the knowledge of everybody else. And he allowed me to use the one computer in the library, and he would not allow anyone else. So that allowed me to learn how to program my junior and senior year, which is really really cool. I thought if I look back on that, I should have been discouraged by all means. But there was the librarian of our school was the only person that saw like, hey, there's some potential here. So then I moved forward. My goal at that point was I really liked computers. I wanted to work at IBM. Within like a year or two of me graduating high school, I actually worked at IBM and started to develop new technologies at IBM while I was there. I was in my 20s. I actually was 20, 21 years old when I was working at IBM, and I helped develop some pretty cool tool sets that ended up becoming marketable products. And I was only 20 years old. After that, I guess I was still a little bit hot-headed and tempered. So at one point there was an issue, and I left IBM and ended up working at a multi-billion-dollar financial institution running their IT department. That's really where it started to click in terms of security and computers could link together. I was in the it was the early 2000s when I started at the bank, and I the experience was a lot of working in federal audit regulations, state audit regulations, and securing all the computer data. I was brought in to fix that environment because they were the only bank in the United States that also operated an internet service provider, and they had the internet service provider running off the bank network, which, if you thought about it today, is just an automatic no-no. Back then, it must have been a good idea by a CEO or a board member at some point. But my goal was to jump in. We had to spin off the ISP, sell that off. Banking shouldn't be in the ISP business, and then secure the environment. I talked about it in my webinar where that environment actually had the worst rating possible on their technology environment. And by the time I left, they achieved the highest rating. Um, Through that, it was really odd, but that was actually slow for me. So there's always this mentality where things are slow, I have to do more. So I started going back to school and gained appreciation in higher ed, and that's where it took me today. I've worked on a ton of different computer environments, secured a ton of different computer environments for a bunch of colleges across the globe. And right now, I'm at Illinois Valley Community College as their CIO and just running the environment. So I guess that's the full tilt of how I got into computers, my appreciation for security, and really the main reason I even took the opportunity at IVCC was because they had just been ransomware a year prior and they were kind of left in shambles. So I needed to get in there and fix that environment. And it was after years of neglect. So my goal is it took them 10 to 20 years to get in that shape. I wanted it done within 2 years. So I put in a ton of hours, built a great team. Everybody took on the philosophy that we wanted to just do things fast and get it back on track. And that's what we did over the last couple of years. And now it's just steady state. So that's where, I guess, me in a nutshell on what I did, what I've done. And yes, I don't do computer hacking anymore or anything like that. I got out of that business when I was probably like 18, 19 years old. That was, you know, child's, I guess, game or something like that.
Yeah, so that was definitely not exactly what I was expecting.
Yeah,
Before we started recording, Justin's like, I have an interesting background. And I was like, please tell. So, but it's funny. I feel like it's always the hackers that end up being like the super cybersecurity, like the Kevin Mitnick types, that like,
yeah,
end up doing the real hardcore cybersecurity stuff because who knows better than,
I agree.
yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's just making sure that they're not doing mischievous. Mine was not being mischievous. It was more out of boredom, I guess. But now it's just fun. That's my day job now.
Oh man. Well, that's awesome that you've come to this side of it. And so I kind of want to get into my next question, which is you've kind of seen it all then with
Mhm.
cybersecurity stuff. So what do you think the biggest mistakes make that people, I mean, when it comes to cybersecurity, the biggest mistakes people make?
Um, I mean, honestly, and this is probably the hard truth, people get lazy. I mean, it's every time I've seen an environment, they have thought they could set it and forget it. And in cybersecurity or just internet or IT security, just in general, you just can't set it and forget it. There's nothing that works that way. There's constant changes, constant exploits, and you can't set a computer program to prevent someone from calling one of your employees and asking them for their password because they will do that. Right now, we consistently fight fights. I mean, literally fight fights with computer hackers at the college because if you're out of college, computer hackers try to get information, try to get access to systems, and try to get students or faculty or staff passwords. Well, Martin Luther King last year, 2025, Martin Luther King Day, the schools closed. Myself and two other individuals, I don't even have admin. Well, I didn't have admin access at the time, but we had our network admin, our CISO. We're getting exploited nonstop on Martin Luther King Day. And I'm like, just give me access. We will get this done. And we spent the entire day fighting hackers, and they would change their methods on the fly while we were closing the loopholes or any exploits they were doing. They were sending information or sending emails out, et cetera, trying to get students to give their information. And we'd be able to lock those accounts out, reset passwords, and we were right in front of them. And we did that nonstop one whole day. After that, everybody laid off. Like they have not tried to attempt our network at that point. I attribute that to not only resilience of our team, but just being able to get in and get things done. a lot of people, like when it's off hours, they check out, and you can't really check out from security. You have to be at the ready as much as the job pays well or whatnot. The you signed up for the ability to sit there and try to fight fights just like that. So having tools would not have prevented that. The tools were ones that we were resetting passwords in real time because they were exploiting users' accounts. Other than that, just making sure that updates are applied. Those are huge, and just making sure that you get the right tools in place, because it can be pretty intense while you're trying to secure an environment, and you never really want to let your guard down. I know that's almost like a scare tactic, but truly not meant to be. It's just hopefully that this gets out to some of those future or current IT people that really enjoy it. At the end of the day, I told our president, I'm like, I'm fine with working crazy overtime. It's intense. I didn't sleep that night. I was pumped. I wanted him to come at me again because, it was probably one of the most funnest days that we had.
It's so crazy when you explain it like that because I just don't picture it as like a live kind of like head to head like that. I mean,
Yeah,
that
I
would
didn't
be
I didn't
exciting.
think it was going to turn into that at all. Like I was like, okay, well, it's our normal. Someone spammed us. Let's just, reset those passwords, purge the spam. But then they would change their technique and keep going, and it was intense. And what we the I guess the win out of that was we found out that we communicate even more with the students now to make sure that no one from the school is going to text them and ask them for a confirmation code, that they're going to ask for their password. They're not going to ask for their for or for their information on a Google form. And move forward some, we've actually been working with all the faculty to eliminate usage of Google Apps and Google Forms because they're readily available. Students are very comfortable with those when they go from high school into college, but the problem is hackers know that, and they use that exploit to be able to exploit their comfortability with those apps to try to get more information out of them.
It's so scary. I mean, all the stuff they can do now. But
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, it really is. And you kind of touched on this a little bit in my last question, but just to give some more specifics, I mean, what are the simplest things people can do to shore up their own cybersecurity, whether it's libraries or just your personal cybersecurity?
Oh yeah. I mean, I usually go with the basics. Like I mean, just like my presentation, you don't need a huge budget to really start to secure your environment. Obviously, there's some nice tools that are expensive and they do a great job, but when you're short on money, the typical Microsoft Defender or using something like Malwarebytes, just having an antivirus, going around and making sure that your systems are all up to date and checking that on a regular basis. Just having good practices, knowing just like the Google Forms or Google Apps, making sure that you're leveraging those and teaching your patrons and your staff how to use those and how to educate everybody on what to look for when it seems to be a scam. Now, if you've got a budget, I'm all bought in at the college on Darktrace. That's a huge tool for us. It's basically an appliance that sits on our network and constantly monitors all the activity on our network. There's a price to it. Depending on your size, it may not be that too expensive, but the tool sits there and uses AI, monitors all your activities. So at least if it's not common for you to just dump hundreds of gigs of data to an internet page, then if it sees your account doing that, it will block your account and stop that activity immediately, which is really assuring because you know it's not uncommon that people leave a company or something like that and they will just take all their data and upload it to a OneDrive, and it will prevent that activity if it's not common for them. Same thing with emails, etc. It's a great tool, but obviously don't need that. I mean, you can just keep an eye on items like that by using just Microsoft Defender or having a firewall, or some other method. In all reality, it's hard to prevent people from uploading their files to a Google Drive or a OneDrive, but if you had a firewall, in theory, if you're really concerned about it, you could block that activity through a firewall and prevent that, or using something like OpenDNS or another DNS service provider to limit those types of access. But super quick in a nutshell, that's a good way to really secure your environment. And in all reality, the easiest way is not even a tool per se. It's just making sure that you regularly train your staff on what to do and keep your item, your network, your computers, et cetera, all updated. Those are true key items that'll save you almost every time.
For sure. And another thing you talked about in your presentation, as far as like personal cybersecurity goes, and for libraries, but is password management, because I know this can be a hot topic for people because it's so easy. Like you said, people get lazy to just reuse the same recycle, same passwords over and over again. But can you just go over again some of your favorite tools as far as password management?
Yeah. So I like to use either Bitwarden or there's one password or LastPass. There's a lot of providers. And in all reality, a few years ago, LastPass was king in this sector. But they did have a time where their accounts were compromised. There was not a huge fallout from that, but because of that, it opened up that sector to have a lot of other competition. What they're going to do is just basically it'll give you a one-stop shop to, you know, organize all your usernames and password, automatically generate them if you need to, if you can't come up with different ones. And then really you set it in that instance, you kind of set it and forget it. You just need your password to get into the tool. You don't need your passwords to get into all the various apps. When you want to get into a website or another app, you just launch it from that one page or from their browser plugin, and it'll let you get into whatever you'd like to without trying to remember or keep your passwords all the same.
That's great. No, I love that. Are there any other tools besides the one you've mentioned that you can think of that might be helpful for people?
I mean, and I talked about it a little bit ago, but I love OpenDNS. That's a really great way to centrally manage your network. That'll work at home. That'll work at work, libraries, whatever. That's an insane way to secure everything. And then, in all reality, if you're big enough, or if you want to get out of the Google Drive, OneDrive business, you can get into some sort of network appliance or software application that allow you to spin up your own network drive or network server at work and just require people to save files there. So there's some pretty cool ways that you can secure your environment in those regards.
Yeah, that's very cool for sure. Well, if there's nothing other cybersecurity wise that we're going to talk about today, we do a fun little thing on the podcast since this is the library is open. We do a little lightning round with
Oh, very
library
cool.
and reading related this or that preferences. So, Justin, tell us, do you prefer nonfiction or fiction?
I'm weird. I prefer nonfiction. I cannot get into fantasy. It has to be reality based. I really like financial books and just that's my hot topic right now. I have just a stack of financial books that I'm reading right now, and as I go through, it's next pile and keep going. So it's just something that I like doing. I've never been able to get into fantasy. I know a lot of people like Star Trek or Star Wars or Marvel or something like that, and for some reason it never clicks. I was the person that I like MacGyver, even though it's in theory, I guess could be kind of fantasy, but there's some plausible, realistic, spots to it where I'm like, okay, that could work.
I'm exactly the same. I cannot get into fantasy, and I have so many friends that have gotten really into the like Court of Thorn and Roses series and all that, but I just can't I can't. I'm a nonfiction person myself, so I
Very
relate to
cool.
that. Is there any particular finance book recently that has just hit that's been great for
You
you?
know what? And I won't lie. I remember when I was a kid, my parents went to this Charles J. Givens seminar that was at the Decatur Civic Center. I'm from Decatur, Illinois, and I didn't know it at the time, but I remember my mom buying some stuff. It was like this whole sales pitchy thing, and you bought something, you went home with it. I regret. I actually picked that book up this year, blew through it. I didn't realize he was from Decatur, Illinois, so he was from my hometown, which may be why he probably only did one seminar there. But the book I wish I got when I was in high school or right thereafter, it is probably like a 30-year-old finance book. Some of the stuff is not applicable today, but I swear I would have been on a better track financially. Not that I'm not already, but I would have learned a lot of stuff. It teaches you how to manage your insurance. It teaches you how to manage stock, your bank account, a bunch of different things. So I read that book, was super excited about reading that book, and then I gave it to my 18-year-old, or my sorry, he's 23 now. So I gave it to my 23-year-old son. And I told him, like, you have to read this because I wish my parents would have gave me that same book and told me to read it, because it's definitely something that I feel like, even as old as it is, even if there's maybe a super very small salesy pitch to it, a lot of those principles 30 years ago still apply today.
For sure. Yeah, that's great. All right. And now, what about reading with your eyes or your ears? Ebooks versus audiobooks
Um, I I I don't
or
like
print?
ebooks. I still like paper. I still have to flip the pages. Um, but sometimes, depending on if I used to, I haven't recently, just because my commute's significantly shorter. I used to, when I commuted about an hour to an hour and a half a day, I would listen to ebooks on the way into work. But since my commute's like 15 minutes now, I don't have time to, I don't actually get enough break time to listen to an ebook. So I like flipping through the pages right now.
I love that. And with that, do you prefer hardcover or paperback?
Hardcover. I have to have that tactile feel. I don't know if I want to get upset at the book and throw it across the room. Not that I've ever done that, but I feel like, it's a self-defense weapon. It's my security, I guess. But yeah, I just feel like hardcovers, almost all my books sitting in my stack are hardcover. There's too soft, but I think they're too small to actually print in hardcover anyhow for those two.
I'm the same. I prefer hardcover. All right. And last question, dog-eared pages or do you use a bookmark?
I know. I talked about this to my wife, and I'm like, I'm very much a bookmark person. And then she reiterated that to me. She was like, you are almost like, insensitive about, anybody that dog ears pages. You make everybody use bookmarks. And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. I guess that's it.
That's the right answer because we we had a guest that said they dog-eared their pages and I was shocked because this person had worked in a library for a very long time and I said, "Wow, that is just disrespect."
Yeah,
So
I've been using old baseball cards as my bookmarks because I'm like, they're not worth anything anymore. I guess you saved them as a kid and they're really not worth much. So I have baseball cards that I use as my bookmarks.
I love that. That's great repurposing.
Yeah.
Good for you. All right, cool, Justin. Well, if anybody has any questions for you, is there a good place they can reach out, LinkedIn or anything like that? Or
Yeah, if they want to reach out via LinkedIn, I actually, let me see if I've got I mean, I guess linkedin.com/n/Justin Denton one, is my LinkedIn.
cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today, and I hope you have a great day.
Sounds good. You too. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.